Okay, what I'd like to talk about today is why isn't everybody supporting your decision to retire overseas? This is will prepare you a little bit. The other question you could ask yourself is, what can you do to get the acceptance of other people for retiring overseas? And the first question answers the second one. You're not going to. Amongst coworkers and stuff, if you're like planning a retirement, you start talking about, I'm going to go retire. And again, here I'm in Thailand, so I'll just talk about Thailand. But people either won't believe you, or think you're a cornflake or something, or maybe think you're some kind of obsessed with women or something. You'd never go overseas to be more financially responsible, save your money, maybe the better weather for health reasons. It would. It's just you can expect very little support. Good friends, those are awesome to have. They're just so rare, unfortunately. But good friends will be supportive, and I have plenty of friends who were very supportive of my overseas retirement. In fact, I've gotten closer to some friends, but I've always been kind of a friends guy. I've always sort of put the work in. I think that's sort of paid off here. It pays off in so many ways, but it paid off. It paid off with my retirement plan because I've actually gotten mail from people, which is imagine the thought in the 21st century to handwrite a letter, put it in an envelope, go to a post office, get the proper postage on it, and then mail it. But generally speaking, when you start talking about going overseas, the problem isn't the overseas part. The problem is you're going outside the expected norm. Other people feel generally a lot more comfortable if you're doing what they're doing, because that validates them. And I don't think this is some evil plan. It's just the way it works. Typically, you're going to get a pretty negative response. And retirement overseas is considered, I think, to me, in the Midwestern United States, anyways. Maybe in California it isn't such a big deal. Maybe in Germany or something it isn't such a big deal. I don't know. But in the Midwestern United States, to me, it's considered pretty extreme. Now I've got friends in kind of an unusually wide age bracket. Because of that, I've noticed that my younger friends, for sure, I would say have been maybe the most accepting. Although having said that, I've got some friends that are my age that are some of my really, really closest friends, and they're just super, super supportive. There is an asterisk on that too, though, that I feel that anyone who's married, a friend that's married, their wife or spouse, girlfriend, whatever, can see you're going outside the norm, potentially relationship-wise. Some women will find it threatening because I'm not dating another American woman that's, within 5 or 7 years of my age or something. I'm dating a Asian woman that's 20 years younger than me. Shame on Bad Rob. Which is interesting too, because around the world this is very common age difference. But if you're wealthy in the United States, then this is very normal. And here I'm wealthy. Isn't that an odd coincidence? Oh, and then of course you got to take into account like the movies, Hollywood and stuff. I mean, all the not all, but overwhelmingly all your love interests in the movies. The woman's on average 20 years or so younger than the man. I'm a big Kolchak fan, Kolchak, Kolchak, played by Darren McGavin. Science fiction guys tend to love Darren McGavin and Kolchak. The first movie, his love interest. I looked it up because I was like, hey, wait a minute, and she was like 20 some years younger than him. And I was like, oh, see, there you go. So I'm Kolchak. I'll take that one. You will find that a low level of enthusiasm generally, other than your true friends. And this is a nice opportunity. This and a divorce is the same thing. That will really sort your friends out. And I would tell you, let it sort. Let them sort themselves. I didn't push back a millimeter. When some friends stopped returning my texts and this and that, I sent 2 or 3 messages. It was that rule, right? Call somebody 3 times and let it go. I apply that rule to everyone. I the only exception there would be, and I didn't have to apply it, would be my two children. I think literally, I think literally every other person on this planet, it's up to them. If they don't return a text, then hey, it's okay. I get it. You know, I've had that in the States, and I've had that here. That's a whole other, that's a whole other conversation. It is challenging to find, good people overseas, retired, that can almost validate, people thinking it's a bunch of flakes over here, which that could be true. That could be true, but that in no way infers that you are. Everyone's an individual person. I could go to a hockey game and everyone there is a super hockey fan. I really don't care that much about hockey. I don't hate it, not even 1%. But I just don't get all excited about it. And I could happen to go because I was curious. Doesn't mean I'm a hockey fan because I'm in the arena. Just means I'm there. Same thing here. And you're going to run into other problems too, because then as you do come here, then there that distance and out of sight, out of mind is just true. And people are tribal. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to admit it. But I think we're all tribal, is my point. I think we all like being a part of a group, and that being part of a group means you're talking or doing something almost every day, certainly every week. I love that feeling, that tribal feeling. When I was in my car club, we'd all drive in a formation and go out and go to a restaurant somewhere, whatever it was. It was an awful lot of fun. But back to my point. I mean, so yeah, if you're planning your retirement and you're setting all this up, you're getting excited about it, I would carefully observe who's truly enthused and who isn't, and I wouldn't push myself or this concept or these ideas on anybody. And if people start to back away, I'd let them back away, because it's just life. It's not everyone's going to follow you on every journey. Hey, I'm going to go hike up this hill. Well, if you go and do that, I can't do that with you. I'm not physically able. And if you're going to do an overseas retirement, they might not be emotionally able. Because in a way, they can. What I see, and I believe I'm right about this, or I wouldn't share it. What I see is the other person, when you talk about your fantastic, outside the box, innovative, interesting, financially advantageous. If you're single, maybe single life advantageous. If you like nice weather and you're in a bad weather area like I was, Michigan's famous for terrible weather. All the weather advantageous, all these things, food advantageous. You name it, right? Beaches and things that are cheap and plentiful, and all this, mountains you can go, and all this. They take it as you're kind of throwing shade on what they're doing. That how come they weren't bold enough? How come they're going to stay in a bad weather area? How come, maybe they weren't brave enough to go and walk away from their spouse? If their spouse was truly treating them poorly, I'm just saying. If they're in a great marriage, then you stay with it. But. All that kind of stuff. It does take a lot of courage. All this stuff takes some guts. I remember the moment that my ex-wife and I were having a pretty big argument, which had become very frequent, and she challenged me that, well, I need to know you're committed to this marriage, because she was smart. She wasn't dumb, and she had to know what I was thinking, and she obviously did. And I said, I'm not sure. And everything went way downhill after that moment. After I gave that answer, everything went way downhill very assiduously. And planning this was a rough plan, this was rough. And people wanted to throw their agenda on it, And this is for me, because it's my son put it up really well. I asked my son about this. He goes, Dad, I don't have one single problem with what you're doing. He goes, not one single problem with anything you've done recently and anything you're doing right now. He goes, I have zero issues with anything regarding what you're doing. It's as unequivocal as it gets, right? Yeah, so you're gonna find that people in general are not enthusiastic about your plans. You're gonna lose friends just thinking about this and planning this. And then when you actually come over here, if I don't know what the percentages are of guys that think about it and actually do it are, but if you're one of the guys that actually does it, then you're gonna have further attrition, and that's just for all kinds of reasons. I should probably have mentioned earlier too. I think jealousy is a really big reason. I hate to say that, and it's such a shallow thing to throw at somebody, and I don't like to cheap shot people, because It's a cheap shot. Why take a cheap shot? But if it's true, it's true. And I do believe it's actually jealousy is a big part of this. But then once you get here, you're going to find that, I mean, all I can tell you is about Thailand. It's probably similar or the same elsewhere, but all I can really talk about is the Kolat area of central Thailand, which is also in the Isan region of Thailand. And here, I can tell you, you don't really belong. They're super friendly, and the Thai cultural standard, social standard, is very high. They are obligated to be extremely polite to you, or it reflects extremely poorly. If they're not extremely polite, it reflects extremely poorly. So they're under a lot of incentive to be really polite to you. Okay. Once you get past that, though, you don't really belong here, and I'm cognizant of that fact. I don't belong here. So this has been an interesting and a welcome and pleasurable experience so far for me in self-exploration, self-development, and this goes part and parcel with my lifelong thing of bodybuilding and strength training and martial arts training, and which now has taken the form of rehab and all that, and getting medical care, and Fawn's my awesome assistant with all of this. But it's like there's a guy that a Japanese fellow. Gosh, I want to say it was. I'm going to make a guess. I don't really know this, but maybe it was a long time ago, 400 years ago, 300 years ago. I don't know. I could look him up. Maybe I'll look him up. I'll put it on the screen. Musashi, arguably the greatest samurai of all time, and he wrote a paper, and it's free on Google. You can Google it, and it's translated to English, and it's shockingly easy and entertaining reading. And it's kind of like a Marcus Aurelius or a Machiavelli or something like that. It's like a famous philosophical sort of thing, but it's written by kind of like a tough guy. And in this case, you can forget the kind of. This was like a really, really tough guy. Literally throughout all time, maybe the dead last person you'd ever want to face in combat. I think he killed every single opponent he ever faced. I want to say it was something like that. You get the idea. But the odd thing and the interesting thing about it, though, is his writings. Yeah, they're violent and this and that, but it's easy to see past that. And there was a lot more to his thought than that, although he clearly liked that. And it was his paper mostly is on self-exploration. And one of his things was one of his keys to happiness. I'm going to badly paraphrase this. I'm just going to apologize right here. Was to not seek anything outside yourself. And there's a couple of popular psychologists I watch on YouTube, and they basically talk about the same damn thing. So, what I found has been making me happy is focusing on me. How about that? There's a crazy thought. Kind of my turn, right? And sometimes I push back with Fawn on that, and with friends here and stuff, I don't have to push back because I don't have any real obligations with them. We're just friends. We do stuff together when it's mutually agreeable to all of us. It's easy, But I'm just, and I found this is making me very happy. I was happy before, but I had a lot of pressure and stresses on me, and it was a high stress lifestyle. If you're ultimately you end up getting divorced and you're still married, by definition, you're not 100% happy, and that's stressful. And then in the United States, the economy's been rough the last few years. I don't think it's, an outlandish statement to say that. And that's stressful, And I was planning my retirement. And so for you, if you're watching this video, half my audience is 55% or so of my audience is like around 55 and up. It's like 55 and 55. And so most of you guys, I mean, planning your retirement or just getting into your retirement or maintaining your retirement, all these things can be stressful. I will tell you, in Thailand, way less stressful, And it's more interesting. I mean, again, back home, most of my friends are still working. My son is my best friend. He works. My daughter lives literally across the country, very far away. And she's busy. She's got a husband. He's busy. They both work a lot. All right. Oh, Fawn's got the car started, I think. I'll finish this later. Thanks. Okay, so I'm back home. I'll try and wrap this up. I think it's undeniably true. You're just, for all those reasons and many others, I'm sure, you're just not going to find a lot of enthusiasm for this plan of yours. And when you come here, you're going to find there's a price you pay. There's a price to everything. And I don't mean money. There's just every decision you make that's got some kind of price, because you could have been doing something else, and you got to, before you do this, you need to see if this is what you really want to be doing, For me, as much as some people maybe didn't appreciate, what I was, my plan to retire overseas. Again, there was others that were on a positive side. I mean, I've had people tell me this is the most badass thing they've heard of. They think it's super cool. I've had people say, "Oh my gosh, that's really brave." I agree with that. I think it is brave. I think immersing. Am I saying that right? in a foreign culture and learning a second very difficult language at this late stage in life, and that's a lot of good challenge, but they're good challenges. There's challenges that are a waste of time. Shoveling your driveway from snow, it's just going to snow again, to this is a useful challenge. But having said all that, I mean, you get here and then you're, a lot of guys. To me, it feels like an overwhelming majority. I hope I'm wrong about that, but a lot of guys kind of just park it and go, "Well, that's it. I'm done. Time to rest on the laurels," and that's it. I like a good challenge. In fact, I think part of the key to happiness for me is to always be working on some kind of new challenge. Another reason it's nice that I'm slowly working on the house is it's a great hobby. Just building the house itself, planning it, and I'll put some bonus footage at the end of this with that. I mean, it's very productive. To me, very productive stuff, and it's interesting. And as an example, I was talking with Kunpa yesterday that I need to put about 10 centimeters of stone. Hin is stone, for Kenganang, stronger, and he was saying that he immediately goes into Din Muang Thai, the Thai soil, and he was saying didn't need that. So I was understanding 70% of what he was saying. So I'm going to have fun translate that, and me and Fawn and Kunpa are going to have a little a conversation on that this weekend. And again, there's no rush. I'll naturally want to pressure myself, get the goal, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm retired. No, I've got pension income coming in I don't have to work for. No, I'm going to take my sweet time. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy the journey. And I'm just going to make this a great and I've been deliberately dragging my feet for social reasons of I do not want a second divorce. Even leaving, it wouldn't be a divorce the first one, but even having to leave Fawn would just suck. And I don't want any more pain. Let me think. Yeah, no, I'd rather not. I've thought that over. I'd rather not. So I'm just going slow and careful. So if there were to be a problem, my pain's minimized, and I move on like I said I would. I could promise myself I would, and I mean it. But it's all good. Not to be negative, I mean it's all good. It's been I gave Fawn some firm pushback this morning on some things, and she came back with very good points of why she's good for me and why she supports me and how she supports me. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm liking what I'm hearing. That's good argument. I like that. Good talk. Okay, cool. And I just have to keep myself on my toes and her on hers a little bit, and all within the framework of a healthy, productive, mutually supportive relationship. But I'm the captain of that ship, and I got to make sure it's steered in a way that's reasonable, and which it is, and I do. So it's all good. And these are all the things that are part of my journey, and these are things that keep me busy in a productive way, And then I got to think of my next project with my son. We did the knife project and the boot project, and so now I got all year to think about what next year's project's going to be, That's a great thing, And when I get home, we got to look at maybe buying a better couch, because he gives me the bed because the bed's got a really expensive mattress on it for my back. But see, these are all great things, and I'm about, and I when I go back, I talk to a really accomplished, really experienced specialty spinal surgeon, get his take on my MRI and my X-rays, and then I come back here. At some point, I'm going to take that information and go to Bangkok, and there's one guy in particular who's like the big spinal guy in Bangkok, and he's American educated, and talk to him. again, shockingly, the cost is about the same whether I do the surgeries in the U.S. or here. By the time you add up all the ancillary costs and things, it's roughly similar. So far, I'll evaluate that further, and I'll do an update on that. But in that case, then my choice is to be here, being cared for by Fawn and her family, because they've got the dedicated time to do it. Back home, nobody has that kind of dedicated time they can really do to, because I'm helpless as a baby for several weeks at least, so if not months. So yeah, so there's so there's your content on. I would expect very little general enthusiasm. I would expect a great sorting of your friends. When you get here, you'll think you're making friends quickly, and you're not. You'll have to resort that all the time, and eventually you'll get the hang of the expats here. And I've decided, and one of my things was never let anybody else dictate how I behave, and so. I've gone back to being a little friendlier here with expats that I pass, or give a wave or a nod or something, and if they're in the don't talk to nobody for nothing mode, then that's up to them. But I want that Musashi thing. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to do me, and I'm going to go forward in this world and do my thing. And I don't need a samurai sword to do that. Praise God. So yeah, I mean that's how it is here. On the positive, you'll meet awesome people along the way, and I've made some new friends that are really some incredible people, and then my best friends back home have really become really great people and really close to me, some of them in particular, and that's wonderful. And I think our daughter didn't live with us at the time of the divorce and after and all that stuff, but our son did, and I think my son and I are both happier now. I don't know that my daughter is, which is very unfortunate, but I suspect she's not. But my son and I are happier. But we were the ones living in that house. So I think that's obviously a very good thing. And so, all for the better, all good, all forward. There you go. Oh, here I am at the property again. I get to plan the next phase. Still waiting on the sections of stainless for the regular pieces. I think I bit off a bit more than he can chew, but he's working on it. I'm not worried. He'd get gossiped to death if he shorted me on the deal. So that's what I'm doing. I just got forced out of bed. Well, I was awake and had my first cup of cappuccino actually already, but then Fawn said, "Leo, quick," and she needed me to buy Song, her aunt and her mom, to the hospital for a planned appointment that no one. There's got to be a Thai cultural thing where they just don't. I'm not trying to say this in a condescending fashion. I'm just being literal that they just don't seem to plan ahead. Like saying, well, tomorrow or the next step will be, like, I almost never have that conversation here. And it's actually chilly this morning. It's hot season. It's chilly this morning. So there you go. Walking back home. It's kind of interesting. Her aunt's added some extra barbed wire to keep the street dogs out. And then she kind of reinforced. I love her reinforcing. It's just so cute. And that's her old gate. And there's out the fence, all of the fence around Fawn's land and her land all looked like this before. And then the brush was as dense as that pile. That's why we couldn't see how big the land was. You just could not get at it. Obviously, eventually down the road, when everything calms down for me financially, so this might be 5 years from now, I'd like to extend my wall theme into her entryway and make that nice. And eventually that land's supposed to go to Yui, who does a nice job taking care of my stuff. All my clothes and everything, and never asked me for anything. Gee, I like people like that, don't you? Isn't that weird? People that help you and do stuff and don't have their hand out all the time. Boy, those people are nice. Never enough of them around. But yeah, I wouldn't mind putting an entryway up and a halfway decent gate or something, and God forbid she and her family ever had one nice thing in their lives, right? The house gets bigger. Then by the time you add on all the accessory buildings and the courtyard and the rock gardens, and I've got it all kind of mapped out, I got to maybe try and shrink it down a tad. Got a beautiful design, and at first try, it almost fits perfectly. In fact, it's kind of crazy. The corner I cut just for design reasons and just for the hell of having an angle is exactly where the bad ground is. Maybe that was subconscious in my part, but I did not recall that. Kun Pa was saying Tom Leo, so that's like get it all done today. And I'm like, he always tends to mean what he says. So, and I didn't notice those sections over there. Couldn't see them from our side of the wall. So I guess we're getting all the stainless done today. Good news. Bad news is I got to pay for it. Here's our neighbor back there. Don't really care for the aesthetic much, but you can see why I chose to have a wall that blocks the view. So there's frequently a method to my madness. Part of the advantage of being older, isn't that nice? My name is Rob, and thank you for supporting my YouTube channel. I meant every word I just said with respect.